El Clásico always matters, but there's an extra buzz when it really matters, and this one really matters. There are 9 matches left to decide the title, and Barca have 10 matches left to capture the double. Barcelona play Real Madrid and Atletico Madrid, Los Blancos have Sevilla, and Atletico Madrid have the 2 big Basque sides, that being Athletic Club and Real Sociedad, and of course they also have that matchup with Barcelona. And Atleti will be doing it for the next 2 or 3 weeks without Luis Suarez. But Barcelona can't be thinking about Atleti, because this clash with their eternal rivals in white could decide which of the 2 will be fighting Atletico Madrid for the title down to the wire. Not just in points, the loser of this match may lose the emotional fight required for that final push. Now it's time to preview the 246th edition of El Clásico. Hi, I'm Dan Hilton, and this is the Barcelona Podcast YouTube exclusive. I say 246, but it's really just a 246 competitive meeting between the 2. They've also met 33 times in exhibition circumstances. In the competitive matches, Madrid has won 97 and Barca has won 96. They are the 2 giants of Spanish football. Each have had their small lulls in their history where the other one takes the upper hand, but they inevitably come back to see each other as equals. This version of the matchup will take place at the Alfredo Di Stéfano Stadium, Madrid's answer to Barca's Johan Cruyff Stadium. This is the 18th different venue that has hosted El Clásico. And funny we should mention Di Stéfano, but the namesake to the venue played a huge part in this rivalry. Many already know the story of Di Stéfano, Millonarios, River Plate, Barca, Madrid, and Franco. And if not, hit that link above or down in the description. But few actually think about the way that Barca could have been lost forever in this rivalry. In 1953, when Di Stéfano joined Los Blancos, Barcelona had 6 Ligas, dating back to their first in 1929, the first year of the competition. At that point, Madrid had won just 2. Over the next 20 years, culminating with Johan Cruyff winning the Liga in 1974, Los Blancos won 13 titles, and Barca, with the help of Lazo Kubala and the Spanish Luis Suarez, won just 2. Yet, thanks to the Dream Team in the last 16 years, Barca has caught up quite a bit, having now won 26 to Madrid's 34. Yet, the rivalry in the standings has been even closer. Madrid has finished above Barca in the final standings 45 times. Barca has finished above their rivals 44 times. Sergio Ramos, who will miss the match due to injury, is the all-time leader in El Clásico appearances with 45. But who else but Lionel Messi will actually equal that mark this weekend? More importantly though, we all know that Messi has scored more goals than anyone in El Clásico history with 26, 8 more than both Di Stéfano and Cristiano Ronaldo, who were tied for second. That said, Messi hadn't scored in his last 6 El Clásicos, but his recent form says that could change. Of active players, Karim Benzema is tied for 13th with 9 goals in the affair. Believe it or not, Messi is actually one of 5 players that has scored 2 different hat-tricks in El Clásico. His first one, of course, being his memorable first one back in 2007. French midfielder Jim Carlier scored the first El Clásico hat-trick for Barcelona back in 1913 in a 7-0 win in an exhibition game. Santiago Bernabeu in the flesh scored the first El Clásico hat-trick for Madrid, a 4-1 win in the 1916 Copa del Rey. This version of the matchup will see 0 players that have played for the other. In total, 37 players have played for both sides, and it wasn't actually that taboo until the infamous defection of Luis Figo. Even then, Brazilian Ronaldo, Javier Saviola, and for Madrid fans, Samuel Eto'o, are not seen with the same contempt from either fanbase. Of course, it was all about how Figo jumped the divide. Though it should be noted that Saviola's move from Barca to Madrid in 2007 was the last defection, and I'm not sure when we'll see the next one at first team level. It's rare, but in the case of Juvenal Oz, Diego Lopez jumping from Real Madrid to La Masia, it does still happen at youth level. And to that I say, who cares? They're kids who just want the best chance to be professionals, and I have no problem with them doing that wherever they'd like to go. At this point, I guess we should focus on the actual match at hand. We know that earlier this season Madrid got the better of Barca, winning 3-1 at the Camp Nou, with goals from Fede Valverde, Fati, a penalty from Ramos on a foul from Lenglet, and a late goal from Modric. At the time, the Blaugrana won a stretch of 6 wins, 4 draws, and 4 losses in the Liga. Since then, the Catalans have won 14 and drawn 1 in Spain. So while the personnel is the same, minus Fati, this is an entirely different Barcelona side for this return leg. Even looking at the last matches, I'm still just as optimistic about Barca's 1-0 win over Real Valladolid as I feel Real Madrid would be against Liverpool. To me, Barca had to beat Valladolid. They had to outthink them and want the 3 points more. For Madrid, I'd argue Liverpool beat themselves and Los Blancos helped. The way Valladolid kept extra bodies in the channels so that Barca couldn't overlap with their wingbacks is something Madrid may try to use, but they better collapse in the middle on Messi as well as Valladolid did. When watching Madrid against Liverpool, where Vinicius Jr. had a double, the scouting report for Barca may be a bit more simple. Whether it's De Jong or Piqué playing in a back three, they have to step into the midfield and push Busquets and Pedri up enough to crowd Toni Kroos and Modric off the ball. They had way too much time on the ball against Liverpool, and they preyed on a beat-up Liverpool back line. The disaster of a game from Trent Alexander-Arnold didn't hurt Zinedine Zidane's game plan either. Barca, for their measure, have been a bit more solid on that right side with Dest coming back to defend and Mingueza behind him for extra support. The key there will be Dest covering that ground, and Mingueza not getting caught and picking up a silly foul or yellow card. If Gerard Piqué and Sergi Roberto are healthy, that's 2 wild cards for Koeman to potentially play. The Dutch manager's use of all 5 substitutes recently also gives you a good idea that he trusts a number of players depending on the situation. The initial positioning of De Jong will be a giveaway to how he sees the match shaking out, but I would expect a very similar 11 as we saw against Valladolid. It sounds crazy, but it would be a bit of a risk to start Roberto over Dest out wide or Mingueza, and I wouldn't change what's worked recently. Obviously, Gerard Piqué belongs in El Clásico, but again, you're risking rushing him back into a lineup and changing what's worked with Lenglet, Mingueza, De Jong, and Araujo coming off the bench. Depending on how the match goes, we've seen in 2021 specific roles coming off the bench for Junior Firpo, Trincao, Braithwaite, Ias Moriba, Puig, and Araujo or Lenglet, whoever didn't start. Those defined roles give me faith that this is a squad that understands the mission depending on the mission. This match will come down to the starters though. Messi, of course, but Ousmane Dembélé and Vinicius Jr. do have some things in common in the way that they attack the defense and the recent ways that they both have been playing down the center of the field. If Antoine Griezmann has another assist or Jordi Alba is a major figure on the offensive end, that's good news for Barcelona. We haven't mentioned Ter Stegen, but I think we should. Madrid will get their chances and a big game from the German would tip the scales. Zidane, meanwhile, is limited with his options due to all the injuries to main contributors. There'll be no Sergio Ramos, boo-hoo-hoo, I know, but also no Rafael Varane, Eden Hazard, or Dani Carvajal. I think that leaves Zidane with few choices to make when he's picking his starting 11. I'm about 95% certain that we'll see the same 4-3-3 that started against Liverpool. Karim Benzema has been the key man for Madrid in arguably the best season of his career. 18 goals and 6 assists, but more importantly, he's been the leader for Los Blancos from the spear of that attack, doing all the little things with his movement. The pass before the final pass, you name it. I don't like him, but I can't deny how good he's been. He'll be flanked by Vinicius Jr. and Marco Asensio, who is now 25 by the way. Most people consider him younger due to how much time he's missed due to injury, but he is finally healthy and looking good for Zidane. The other options are Rodrigo or Isco in that front three, and don't be too surprised if we see them instead. Fede Valverde has been good against Barca in every El Clásico he's featured in, but I still think Kroos, Modric, Casemiro is the midfield three. Casemiro is actually second on the team with 5 goals, and this season we're seeing much more of him pushing forward when Madrid has the ball, and shuttling back as a defensive midfielder. The most important plays for Madrid this season are Benzema, Casemiro, Kroos, Modric in that order. I'm comfortable daring anybody else to beat the Blaugrana. The back line will likely be left to right, Ferland Mendy, Nacho, Militao, and Lucas Vázquez on the right. Like Sergio Roberto against Madrid, Vázquez always seems to play well against Barcelona, but I'm more interested in the space he may leave behind for Alba and Dembélé to live in. Other options are Marcelo and Odriozola, but I expect we see them late instead of starting. Maybe even a sighting for Sergio Arribas, a 19-year-old attacker that is trying to make a name for himself, but I wouldn't count on it. For all the Madrid players I mentioned, the name both fan bases will be speaking about pre-game is Mateo Lahoz. The longtime Spanish referee is coming off officiating the midweek Champions League matchup with Bayern Munich and PSG. His El Clásico record is 3 wins for Madrid, 1 for Barca, and 1 draw. He's not afraid to dish out the red cards either, as Culés know well. He red-carded 4 Madrid players and 6 Barca players in games that either side has played in, of which he's officiated 41 involving Madrid and 42 involving Barcelona. All I know is that I do not want to be saying the name Mateo Lahoz after this match, unless I'm commenting on how uninvolved he was in the result. The same can be said of VAR. This El Clásico feels more straightforward than the one earlier in the season, and it should. These teams know who they are much more than they did in the fall. Due to the form of both of these teams, I do expect a high level on the field. But that's just when things get ugly in El Clásico. Even without some of the big personalities that always seem to cause drama, looking at you, Sergio Ramos, every new meeting gives the likes of Pedri, Mingueza, Rodri, a new opportunity to write their names in Clásico lore. For more El Clásico content, check out the weekly podcast with Frances and I wherever you get your podcast. That's already out for this week. Plus, I'll be on The Locker Room on FC Barcelona's official Twitch channel the day before the match to break this one down. Until then, it'd be a big help if you could give this video a like, subscribe, and hit that bell for notifications. And as always, and we really need it for this El Clásico, Forza Barça.